You know that feeling? It's, what, 2 in the morning? Mid-February?
Oh, yeah.
And the wind is just howling outside. One of those classic northeast nor'easters that just, rattles the whole house.
Hmm.
And you're lying there staring at the ceiling, but you're not really listening to the wind. You're listening for a specific sound.
The crack.
The crack.
Yeah.
You're waiting for that massive oak tree in the backyard, the one that leans a little too close to the garage to finally give up.
Yeah.
It's that knot in your stomach every homeowner knows.
It's a universal anxiety, and for most people, that anxiety is immediately followed by a second equally stressful thought.
Which is?
If I actually have to take that tree down, my life is going to be a nightmare. We picture weeks of chaos.
Right. Chainsaws from dawn till dusk, a huge muddy pit where my lawn used to be, a
Nope.
total demolition zone.
Exactly, a construction site in your flower beds.
But today, we're doing a serious reality check on that fear. We've got a stack of research here, focused specifically on tree removal in the Northeast Connecticut and New York mostly.
And what we found is that the reality of professional work in this region is, well, it's completely different from that nightmare scenario.
It's less like a demolition and more like surgery.
That's the perfect analogy. It really is a surgical operation.
Mhm.
And the headline from all the data is this. Even for complex jobs here, the whole process is typically a 1 to 2 day event.
1 to 2 days. That's it.
That's the benchmark. It's highly structured, it's heavily regulated, and surprisingly predictable.
Okay, so our mission for this deep dive is to unpack exactly how that happens. We're going to look at the logistics, the safety standards, and some of these really unique regulations. Things like tree wardens.
Oh, yeah. We have to talk about the tree wardens and things like wetlands buffers that make tree work in the Northeast its own special beast.
And honestly, understanding the mechanics of it all, that's how you get rid of that knot in your stomach.
Exactly. When you understand why the crew is doing what they're doing, the noise stops being scary and starts sounding like progress.
So let's start with geography, because one thing that stood out to me is that tree removal in Connecticut is just fundamentally different than, say, Kansas. Why is that?
It all comes down to the terrain. Geography really is destiny in this business. If you look at a national average, you'll see estimates of like 4 to 6 hours for a standard removal.
4 hours.
In a flat state, sure. The method is simple. You cut a notch, you yell timber, and you let gravity do most of the work. You're home for lunch.
Right. But if you try that cut and drop method in a typical Connecticut backyard, you're dropping that tree onto a stone wall
Or neighbor's Prius.
Precisely.
The Northeast is defined by 3 things: steep slopes, incredibly rocky soil, and dense utility networks.
So you just can't fell a tree in one piece.
You can't. And that dictates the timeline. That's why we see this 1 to 2 days rule. A simple, maybe 30 to 60-foot tree, that might be a single day.
Okay.
But if you have a complex tree, something over 60 feet, or sitting on a steep slope, or near water, you're absolutely looking at a 2-day process.
And that's an important expectation to set. Because if you hire a crew and they're still there on day 2, you might think, oh no, they're slow.
When actually, in this region, if they're taking that extra time, it's usually a sign of competence, not incompetence.
It means they're being safe.
It means they are managing the terrain. The rocky soil, for instance, it makes stump grinding take way longer than in soft, sandy soil. And the slopes. You can't just cut a log and let it drop. It'll roll. It becomes a missile. So everything has to be rigged and lowered.
We're definitely getting into rigging in a minute. But before a chainsaw even gets turned on, there's this invisible phase of regulations.
Yes.
And this is where we need to talk about the tree warden.
The tree warden, it sounds archaic, doesn't it?
It sounds like a character from Game of Thrones. I am the warden of the trees, but this is a real municipal official.
It is a statutory position with real power, and this is where homeowners can get into serious trouble.
So generally, if a tree is on my private property, I'm okay.
You're usually okay. But if that tree falls within the town's right-of-way along the road, it's a different story.
Okay, so explain right of way. I'm picturing the big maple right at the edge of my driveway. It's on my lawn, but it's close to the street.
That's the one. The right-of-way often extends several feet past the pavement into what you think of as your front lawn. And there's a specific law here, Connecticut General Statutes, Section 2359.
What does it say?
It says that for those trees, there has to be a public notice posted on the tree for at least 10 days before it can be cut.
They literally stick a sign on the tree.
They tag it, usually a bright orange or green sign. It gives the community a chance to object. If someone objects, the tree warden actually has to hold a public hearing.
Wow. Unless it's an emergency, I assume.
Right, an immediate hazard is the exception. But for a standard removal near a road, that 10-day buffer is mandatory. Ignoring it is risky. The fines can be astronomical,
How bad are we talking?
up to triple the appraised value of the tree. We're talking thousands and thousands of dollars.
I had no idea. And speaking of high stakes, water. The sources mentioned wetlands buffers.
Yes, if you have a swamp or even just a small creek in the back, you have to be careful.
More than just careful, right?
Much more. Inland wetlands commissions are very powerful. They specify a buffer zone, usually 75 to 150 feet around any wetlands or watercourse.
And a watercourse could be a tiny stream that's dry half the year.
It could be. And if your tree is in that zone, you can't just drive heavy machinery in there, not without a permit or specific mitigation.
Because you'll tear up the ground.
It's about erosion. You churn up that soil, the next rain washes it into the water system, and it messes up the whole ecosystem. A professional crew will set up silt fencing, hay bales. They have to stage their equipment very carefully.
And if they don't, the homeowner gets the fine.
The homeowner gets the fine, massive fines.
It just feels like there are so many things to check. And there's one more phone call that seems kind of counterintuitive. Calling 811.
The call before you dig line.
Right. But explain this. I'm cutting a tree down in the air. I'm not digging a foundation. Why mark underground lines?
Two big reasons. First, stump grinding.
Okay.
You're grinding down 6, maybe 12 inches below the surface. You do not want to hit a shallow gas line or an internet cable with a high-speed grinder.
That would be a very bad day.
A very bad day. But second, and people forget this, is the weight of the equipment. A big crane, a bucket truck. They put thousands of pounds of pressure on the ground.
Ah, so it's about compression.
Exactly. You can crest a shallow septic line or a buried electric cable without ever breaking the surface.
And you have to call at least 2 business days ahead.
Correct. It's a free service, but it takes 48 hours for the utilities to come out and spray paint the line. So again, if a guy says, I can be there in an hour, that is a massive red flag.
Okay, let's fast forward. Utilities are marked. Tree warden's happy. Silt fence is up. Now the crew arrives. This is where my mental image of timber comes in.
And that image is mostly wrong, at least in residential work.
So what's the reality?
The reality is called sectional felling, and it's all driven by a safety standard called ANSI Z133.
ANSI Z133. Sounds like a Star Wars droid.
It's the safety playbook for the whole industry. It dictates how to do this job and keep people alive. And near a house, it means you don't just fell the tree, you dismantle it.
Like taking apart a Lego tower from the top down.
Perfect. A climber or a crane goes up and removes the tree piece by piece. This is to prevent what we call scatter.
Right, a branch falling from 60 feet isn't just going to land softly.
It bounces, it shatters, it flies everywhere, so they use rigging. They attach ropes to the limb before they cut it.
So they cut it, but it doesn't fall. It just hangs there.
It hangs, it swings. The climber cuts the limb, and it's suspended by a rope that runs through a block, like a pulley. Then a crew member on the ground slowly lowers it.
How do they control a, 500-pound log?
With a friction device. It's usually a metal drum called a porter wrap. You wrap the rope around it, and the friction lets one person on the ground easily control a huge amount of weight.
And on a steep hill, this is everything.
It's vital. You can't let logs roll. With rigging, they can steer that log around your gazebo over the fence and land it softly in a designated drop zone.
That explains why it takes longer. It's not just cutting, it's physics and geometry in real time.
Constant calculation. How much does this weigh? Is the anchor strong enough? What's the shock load? All of it.
Which brings us to the other big anxiety, the torn-up yard.
Yes, the cleanup. Because even with gentle lowering, you've got heavy boots and machinery.
So how do they not destroy the grass?
They use ground protection bats. They're these heavy-duty plastic sheets that lock together and form a temporary road.
So the trucks are literally driving on plastic, not on the lawn.
Correct. They distribute the weight so you don't get ruts. And then a proper job includes site restoration. That means chipping the brush, hauling the logs, and then the stump.
Ah, the dreaded stump. So many people skip that part.
They do, to cut corners. But the standard practice here is grinding 6 to 12 inches below grade.
Why that specific depth?
It's deep enough to remove the root crown so you can fill the hole with topsoil and immediately plant grass. Any shallower, and the grass just won't grow.
And I'm guessing the rocks make that tricky.
Very tricky. Grinding a stump in Connecticut takes longer. The operator has to be hyper-aware. Hitting a granite boulder with a stump grinder tooth is explosive. It can shatter and send shrapnel flying.
Wow. Okay, so all of this, the rigging, the mats, the stump grinding, it all adds up. Let's talk cost. The source gave a range of, what, $400 and $1,200 for a standard tree?
That's a general baseline, but the key insight here isn't the number. It's what we call the cheap trap.
The cheap trap. Break that down.
You will always find someone with a pickup and a chainsaw who will do it for half the price. But they are likely skipping three things: general liability insurance, workers' comp, and the regulatory checks.
And the worst case scenario there.
The liability shift is terrifying. If an uninsured worker falls out of a tree on your property, in many places, you, the homeowner, could be on the hook for their medical bills.
Wait. I hire a guy, he gets hurt, and I'm paying his hospital bill.
Potentially,
Yeah.
yes, it happens. And if they drop a tree on your neighbor's roof and they have no insurance, the neighbor sues you.
That puts the $400 in savings in a very different light.
It does. Affordability in this work comes from efficiency and safety, not from skipping steps.
That's a sobering thought. So, assuming we hire the pros, what can we, the homeowner, do to help?
Preparation is key. The morning the crew arrives, your driveway needs to be a blank slate. Move the cars, the basketball hoop, the patio furniture.
Clear the deck so they can get to work.
Exactly. If they spend an hour moving your grill, that's an hour they aren't cutting. Time is money. Also, manage the neighbors.
Well, that's a good one.
It's huge. This is a loud process.
Oh.
Chainsaws, chippers. It's over 100 decibels. Just go next door a few days before and give them a heads up.
That's just good karma.
It is. And here's a strategic tip from the source for saving some money: bundling.
Like cable and internet.
Exactly like that. The most expensive part of a job is often just getting the crew and heavy equipment to your house. So if they're there for one dead oak, look around. Do you have other trees that need pruning? A stump from 5 years ago?
Get it all done in one shot.
The incremental cost is much, much lower than calling them back 6 months later.
That's a great tip. And what about the wood itself? Can you save money by keeping it?
Yes. Hauling heavy logs costs them money in fuel and dump fees. If you tell them, leave the big rounds, I'll split them for firewood, you can often negotiate a lower rate. But, and this is a big but realistic, do you really want 3 tons of unsplit oak sitting in your yard for a year?
That is a lot of weekends with an axe.
It is. Don't turn your yard into a lumberyard unless you're actually going to use it.
Good point.
Ow.
Okay, so let's bring this all together. We started with that anxiety, that knot in the stomach. But what we've learned is that the solution is actually a very rigid, predictable system.
It is. It's a 1 to 2 day event that starts with regulations and markings. It moves to precision dismantling, section by section, and it respects the specific challenges of the Northeast.
And the big takeaway for me is that the regulations, the tree wardens, the wetlands buffers, they aren't just red tape. They're guardrails.
That's the so what here. Peace of mind comes from understanding the process. When you see a crew rigging a branch, instead of just dropping it, you shouldn't think, why is this taking so long? You should think, okay, they're protecting my house.
It changes the perspective. Instead of seeing chaos, you see competence.
Exactly.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave the listener with a thought. We've talked a lot about the obvious danger tree, but what about the ones you aren't looking at?
That is the provocative question. Walk your property this weekend. Look up. Are your trees assets, providing shade, or are they unassessed liabilities?
And if they are a liability,
You need to check where it sits. Is it in that 75-foot wetlands buffer? Is it in the road right of way? Because if it is, you can't just handle it in an emergency. You might need that 10-day permit window.
and the best time to deal with a tree is when the sun is shining.
Not when the wind is howling at 2 in the morning.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Get out there, look up, and know your buffers. That's it for this deep dive. We hope you sleep a little better next time the wind picks up. Thanks for listening.
Stay safe, everyone.